Hey guys, it's PHIA and welcome back to another tutorial video. Today I'm going to be doing a highly requested video, which is how to do VRoid hair. It's a little difficult, they don't make it extremely easy, and it's probably the most challenging part about making a good looking VRoid model, so I'm going to walk you through that process today, and hopefully you're going to have some incredible hair at the end of this tutorial. So I have a pre-made model here. I just took some clothes and some eyes off of Booth, just threw it together really fast, and we're gonna just go over the basics of hair creation, and then I'm gonna go through some commissions that I've done and show you the different types of hair that I've created and kind of dissect for you what I actually did on those. And so yeah, let's get started. So first off, I always go to the general editor and make sure your hair is down to 0. I'm going to go ahead and put the face and body down as well for your outline. That way you're not going to have any of those VRoid lines getting in your way. I highly recommend just leaving that out so that way you can see the hair for exactly what it is. Alright, so immediately you're going to see all of our options here. So I'm going to walk through all the different options and then show you how I set up. So right here is going to be your design. You can actually download different presets, which, I have a ton of presets of my own. And so if you find like hair off of Booth that you think would be really cute and you don't want to make your own, you can do it that way. Then you just import from preset after you've done it. You can also export your own presets. So if you create some hair and you want to upload it to Booth and, make it so that other people can have it, you can just export it and then, post it there. So right here is your hair groups, and this is kind of the main thing we're going to be working with today. So if you start, you can see that we have our base hair, which you can actually show or unshow. So let's say you're trying to do like kind of a bald look, or maybe you have some like head tattoos for a male character. You can actually just hide it, and that is how you get rid of the scalp. So for some female looking like hairstyles, you might want to get rid of the scalp completely. If it's kind of poking through your hair and it's just looking a little bit awkward and you don't want it there. So just remember that that's an option. So then you have your freehand groups, and your freehand groups are going to be anything that you draw on this layer of hair. So as you can see right now, I have, this kind of like plain regular default thing. And if I just draw a few hair strands onto here, just really quickly, you can see that this is all a single group. Now, if I decide to add another freehand group, then we're going to have a different layer. So over here on my tools, I can do select, and then I can add another layer of hair, and you'll see that now I can actually draw on top of this. And so that's how you make hair layers. So we'll just delete those for now. Add a freehand group for the placeholder. And up here, you're going to see the rest of your tools. So I'm going to draw a single hair again. And right here is going to be your select. This is how you select any of your hairs. They're going to have this yellow line around them. And the green dots are how you move the hairs around and do all your layering. Right here's your brush option, which is pretty self-explanatory. Here's the retouch, where you can literally just kind of drag the hair around. I personally don't use this option at all, so I'm sure that there's great uses for it, but I think there's better ways of going around things. And then right here are your control points. So let me draw a new hair. And then you can adjust it however you need. If you needed to face a new direction, or if it's just looking a little awkward. You can also drag to different positions here. And yeah, that's basically the basics of how you shape the hair. So let's go ahead and delete these. We're going to grab our brush again. And if you look over on the right side, we have a few different options here. So first we're going to see this one. This is the mirror option. So if you're doing something like pigtails and you want them to be equal on both sides, you can just draw on here and they're going to match. Then over here is going to be your hairbrush. So this is going to be the preview of what your hair is going to look like. And you also have this color here. So right here is the base color, shade color, highlight, and outline. So if I go to the base color, this is how I change the main bulk of the hair texture. But I'm going to tell you some little tricks later on down the line. So let's just pick a nice color. Let's do like this light blue. And then I'm going to go ahead and instead of doing a shade color, I'm just going to use the drop tool and we're gonna just use the exact same. That way everything is really easy to see. It's a lot easier to draw hair when you don't have any shadows getting in the way. Now highlight, let me draw on another hair, and you're gonna see I have these kind of bluish, greenish strands right here. So that's gonna be your highlight. So you'll see if I choose other colors, let's say I go to like red and I get this kind of like pink one, I'm just gonna take this and put it on black, and that gets rid of it completely, makes it a lot easier to draw your hair on without any interference. Now, if we come over to the general editor and do the outline, and then go back to hair editor, you can change the outline color this way. So we're just gonna leave it black and then keep the outline off. So the next thing on the list is texture parameters. So I'm gonna come over here to texture, and you're gonna see that this is the default texture. So it's white, and you can see that we've actually changed it to blue over here. And this is gonna be on our default image. So if I get rid of that, it goes away. So let's go back to the hair design, and we can actually change where the texture is located on the hair strand. So you can change how thick it is. You can see all this changing up here. So let me select this and we'll see directly. So we can change how wide. You can see that the texture gets wider. You can make it nice and thin and see all the different little strands. Highlight position, if I turn the highlight back on, you'll see that this moves the hair basically up and down. And then offset just moves the texture around. So the texture wraps around the entire hair strand, so even in the back here. So just moving the offset just twirls it around the hair. Now hair parameters, the position X and the position Y. If I go ahead and move this, it's gonna move it around in a circle, and then position Y is gonna move it up and down. So this is actually very useful when you're trying to fine tune some hairs and you don't necessarily want to use the control points to move it, all the way over just, by a tad. So if you want to keep the same kind of flow of the hair, then you can just easily change it that way. Now width is literally going to be just how big the hair is. So you can make little tiny strands, medium sized, whatever you want. But I highly recommend don't just draw on medium sized strands for the entire hair. It is really important that you do some different sizes. So I like to start off with like a big one, and then if I draw over here and I turn the hair parameter down to tiny, then I can do a nice look that way. And if I do an even smaller one over here, you can see that that looks a lot nicer and more natural than it would just having a whole bunch of medium-sized strands just going in the same direction. Now, thickness is a very interesting one. This is going to be how thick your hair goes from the bottom to the top. So if I turn the thickness up, you're going to see this guy gets pretty bulky. If I turn it all the way down, then you just get a single flat hair. You can see that it's about as thin as you could possibly hope. So I personally like to leave this somewhat in the middle, but having some different hair textures, different thickness, will add texture to your hair. Now twist, you have amplitude and interval. So we're gonna go ahead and show you what this looks like. So basically I'm twisting my hair around, and this is kind of good for like curly hair. And interval just changes this kind of up and down. So you can play around with this. Most of the time I do not use the curly looking hairs. I think you can kind of fake it in other ways, but if I do draw maybe like a little guy down here on the side and I just kind of want a little bit of added depth to it, I might add a little curl and then just move that over here in front of the ear. So I'm just gonna open up this freehand group now, right click this, and we're gonna delete it. So let's go ahead and get rid of this curl again. So I'm just gonna type in 0 on both of these. And then smoothness is actually a super helpful tool. So now we're just gonna take this bigger hair and we're gonna do, bring the smoothness up. And you can see that depending on how smooth it is, will show, have less of the edges. Now cross section is gonna be this little buddy up here at the top, which is wherever you start drawing your hair. Right now, ours is in the shape of a diamond. So if you kind of take a look, it's gonna be corner, 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 corner. So let's go ahead and change that to a triangle. You're going to see that gets rid of the bottom half. If I change it to an unfilled triangle, it's gonna have corner, 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 but no inside. If we do flat, it's just gonna be straight flat, just like with the texture when we put it down, or the thickness when we put it down to 0. And then you can just ignore triangle old and unfilled triangle old, stick with the new ones. Personally, I always keep mine at diamond. I think it's the fullest and, you know, most beautiful look. Now curve, this is super interesting. Curve, we're gonna change this from fluffy, which is where it's kind of pointed like this, to straight. So now you can see that you've got the straight look, which is, you know, very important for things like straight bangs. I usually like when I'm on the back of my hair and I'm doing the back side, I will do a straight and then have a couple fluffies that are smaller, then do another straight, a couple more fluffies, just to kind of make it look like it's kind of, you know, has that blunt look, but still has texture to it. So then there's also squid, which gives you this kind of rounded look, and Ika-chan, which is, you know, kind of this arrowy looking point. So you'll notice for all of these that there's this little chart down here, which shows you how the hair is being angled. So this side is the top, and depending on where you draw it, I move this up and down. Down at the bottom is a point, and up at the top is about as open as you can get. Usually it starts, you know, smaller, and then you can reshape the hair. So I'll show you a little later on how, you know, you can get some different hairstyles on a commission that I did to get a more like rounded hairstyle look. So for now, let's just go back to fluffy. I usually stick with fluffy. I think it's the most, you know, it's the most simple and effective way to get hair done. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the freehand group. But before I do that, I'm going to just show you the options that you have here. You can rename each individual hair. So I'll say like middle bangs. Save that. And then I can toggle it, the visibility using this little eye. So I can turn it off and on. I can also do that right here. Toggle visibility. I can do smoothing. I can do cloning, which now I have the same hair down here, which is really useful if I want to, you know, kind of copy the same look on this side. You can flip the hair, put it on the other side, and delete it. Now, you might be wondering what this bone does. So I'm very quickly going to make some nicer looking hair, and we're going to go over to the bone groups, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Alright, so now that we've made bangs, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the bone group here and kind of explain what's going on here. So we have grouped hairs, ungrouped hairs, create bone group, add hairs to bone group, and generate bones. So generate bones is going to be technically the easiest way to do bone groups for your hair. And bone groups are basically just the places where you have physics. So I'll show you how you can kind of test those physics in a minute, but generate bone groups, I'm going to show you how this works first. So for bangs, we're going to say maybe about 4 bone groups, and we're going to leave the bangs fineness at, you know, 0.1 and generate. So now you can see that each one of these colors represents a different bone group. So each one's going to move kind of as a clump of hair. And to test these, I'm going to come over to the camera exporter and go to pose and animation. And what I always do is I do walking and running. So let's do walking first. And you're going to see the hair has this nice little bounce to it. And now let's check running. Now you can see that the hair is moving that way as well. Now, personally, I don't like the auto-generated bone groups very much. So I probably would go back and fix all of that, which I'll kind of show you when we're done with the hair today. But for now, I think the auto-generated ones work perfectly fine. Alright, so what you just watched me do is I wrapped around hair all the way across the back of the head so that we can make pigtails on this cute model. Now, to make pigtails, I'm going to go ahead and start with the base hair group and add freehand group, which literally copies the group that we just made. Copies the little frame that we've got. So if I did want to change something like I did here where I curved everything in, I could do add freehand group, and now I have a new freehand group that curves in the same way. So we're just going to go ahead and reshape this. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the mirror tool right now since we're doing pigtails. And we're going to just start moving this outwards. And I think this looks like a pretty good shape. So wherever I'm going to want it to come from, I'm just going to go ahead and add a little depth where it dips in right there. And let's take a look. So I like the general look of this. I'm going to go ahead and curve it a little more. We're going to bring this in down a little bit. And I think I'm going to want some thicker strands of hair for these pigtails today. Now I'm going to fill this in with some smaller strands, and then we're going to do layering. Layering. So now that we've created a few strands, I'm going to do that trick we learned before by keeping the freehand group here and then adding another one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reshape this underneath. And then that way we can add a layer underneath that still has the same depth. Alright, so now we have some basic pigtails on top of this girl's hair. So let's go over to bone groups, and now we're going to add some bone groups into all of the hair here. Alright, and we're just going to click create bone group. And then we actually have some different controls. So bone count, we're going to stick with probably around 3 for this. We can kind of test out and see how it goes. Fixed point is where the hair will actually move from. So we're going to put this over on the top of the head. And then stiffness helps keeping it from jerking all over the place. So let's turn up stiffness a little bit. And now let's repeat this on the other side and then go test out the hair on that walking and running animation. Alright, so here's what she looks like when she's running. Has cute bob to the hair. I actually really love it. And then here's walking. Has a nice little bounce. So looks really cute, I think. So now the last important thing as far as this basic hairstyle goes is that the texture is pretty bad. So this texture is kind of like the default texture for VRoid models, and as soon as people see this, they kind of automatically think VRoid, which you probably don't exactly want your VRoids to scream, hey, I'm a VRoid model. You want something that looks a little more unique than that. So I highly, highly, highly recommend either going on Booth and finding a new texture there, or just opening up Photoshop like I'm going to do next. Alright, so now that I have a hair texture in, it's time that we can go and add highlights. You can add highlights into the texture itself, so I can show you kind of like if you do something like that, how it'll show up on the hair. You'd have to rearrange it like I showed you before, moving the highlights up and down and whatnot. But for now, just for the sake of ease, I'm just literally going to come over to the highlight, and what I went ahead and did was duplicate this hair to another strand and then change the highlight to a color kind of like this. And then I can adjust the highlight position up and down to wherever I want it to go. And then that way I don't have to put the highlight on all of the hair, but I can kind of work it the way that I think looks good. Alright, so now that we have some basic blue pigtails here, we can see the model walking and the model running, and you can see the physics, and this is the basic hair. Now, obviously for this video, I did something very simple just to kind of show off some different techniques that you can do. So I'm going to go over a few of the models that I've made before and just kind of dissect them for you guys so that you can kind of see some other hairstyles and some other techniques that I do use. So this is one of my favorite models that I've ever commissioned, and this one was for Mirrodin. And you can see that there is tons of layers and tons of different things going on here on this hair. So I'm just going to very quickly go through all the layers. So the bangs are on a single layer here, and they're all the same, but you can see I have all of these strands shaped around them. So outer bangs, I have just a few strands kind of on the sides that I kind of cupped around the face. Then I have these pointy guys up at the top that add some depth, so I just kind of brought those up and then rounded them down. Then the back here, you can see I've got some different layering going on. So I've got the upper layer, and then underneath it, just like I did with the pigtails, I brought in the mesh and then made another layer. And then underneath that, I did a third one. And then I also have a few strand pieces on a fourth layer underneath. So you can see that in order to get, a lot of texture into the hair, you do have to do quite a bit. So then also you can see on top of the hair, I've also got some wisps going on. And those add so much, in my opinion. Just having an extra layer or two with just some flyaway pieces makes it look a lot more realistic. And then I did the same thing on the back. You can see that those are there, and on the sides. And then up here, you can see I also made ears with hair. So you can see I have the inner ear hairs and then the ears themselves. And I did the texturing and all that. And if you look very closely at this hair too, you can see that I did a separate texture for each of these strands of hair. And then on each one, I did a nice little rainbow. So you can see I have all of these different hairs, and I have the ears. If I just come to one of these, you can see I've got the light blue. I literally just made this super light shadow on the side and then adjusted the highlight to get it the perfect length. The next model here that I have is a boy model. I made this one for Starscope. So just to dissect it, here's the bangs layer. Then I have some wispies on top of it going in other directions, which for male hair, you're going to want it kind of pointing all over the place. Then I have these side grooves. Then I have this bottom layer over here. So if I very quickly switch to a t-shirt here, you can see that I have 3 different layers of hair going on, plus all the wispies on top. This bottom layer has these single pieces kind of cupping the neck. Just to kind of hide the scalp a little bit and make it a little more natural. But you can see if I hide that layer, you can see the scalp a lot more, which is kind of eh. And then above it, I have the medium layer. And then I have the top one, then plus all the wispies. But yeah, I think the hair on this one turned out very nice, so hopefully that can give you a little bit of inspo for those male models. So the last model here is one that I made for Waifu King, and this one has some very interesting hair going on that I wanted to show you guys. So this one I did a whole bunch of rounded hairs, I did a little cowlick at the top, and then I also used the hair to make horns and wings. And this one I did put a pretty strong outline on, and I made this one kind of this darkish blue color to kind of match. And now I'll show you how it looks in action with all of these different layers that I've got here. And for each of these hairs, to make them nice and floppy, I added a single bone for each of the groups. And here it is running. Anyways, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this tutorial out. I have so much content I needed to make beforehand, but I'm really excited to finally have this in time for, the Christmas season, my little gift to you, so please enjoy it. But yeah, if you are interested in VTubing, make sure that you check out my Discord, link in the description, because we do have a whole VTubing channel where you can ask questions and get advice from other VTubers, and everybody just works together, which is really awesome. And if you want to watch a VTuber, well, I am going to be going live on stream on Twitch right after this video goes up, so make sure you hop on by and check me out there. And finally, make sure you also check out my Patreon page, because that is the best way to support me and my content. So if you do want to see more tutorials like this, or see, other VR related content on my channel, please consider supporting me so that I can keep on making this kind of content. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I've been PHIA, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Special thanks to this month's Patreon members and virtual VIPs, DoTech, Klukule, Private Donuts, Score Mauler, and Top Waffle.